Welcome to Weight Loss Fight Club, a podcast about the American journey, the American fight against obesity. And we talk about individuals and their stories, how they've struggled with obesity throughout their life, and what steps they've taken to fight against obesity. And today we're going to talk about the importance of having a weight loss buddy. We know that obesity affects people not just individually, but in groups and families, because we all live in this same American toxic diet situation together. So we're going to talk about the importance of fighting against obesity with a partner. Well, my name is Rustin Gibbs. I work at Amazon Web Services. I've been in the IT field for 27 years now. I have focused on localization, which is translating software products and documentation into other languages like Chinese and Japanese. That's been my specialty. I learned Japanese when I was 19 years old. I lived over in Japan for 2 years. And when I came home from Japan, I went to school in Provo, Utah at Brigham Young University. That's when I met Charilyn, and we dated and were engaged for a short time, and we were married. We've now been married. Oh, I'm going to be in trouble because I forgot how long. 28 years now?
28 years.
Yeah. I'll have to make a mental note, buy an anniversary gift. I know our anniversary isn't for another 7 months, but I should probably start working on that now. And when we met in school, we lived in Utah for a couple of years. We had a plan to go back to Japan. I was very interested in the Japanese culture. I arranged for an internship in Japan. And shortly after we were married, Charilyn got pregnant. And she didn't want to have a baby. You can tell that part of the story if you want. Didn't want to have a baby out of the country, so we stayed in the U.S. We had our first child, a son named Riley, and he was born in Utah. And then shortly after that, I took a job with a Japanese company. If you're seeing a theme here, I was really interested in Japan. So I took a job with a Japanese company, relocated to Seattle, Washington. And we lived there for 15 years. I worked at Microsoft at that time. Then, I don't know how much we're going to get into this part of the story later on. We started having some marital problems. We were separated for a time. We ended up in divorce court. We're still together, or at least I think we are, right? Here we are all these years later, moving in the same direction together. But we went through a rocky patch, and we moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. We were there for 10 years. We were there partly related to the marital issues that we'd been having, some financial troubles that we were having, but also at that time, my father had Alzheimer's disease. And I got a call from my brother one day when we were living in Seattle. He said, "Can you move down to Las Vegas? We're moving mom and dad from Pennsylvania, where they were living, to retire in Las Vegas. And we've noticed that dad's having some issues, and we think he should have his family around." So we took that decision to move down to Las Vegas. Enrolled all the kids in school down there. Then we were with my dad for about 5 years or so. His condition got worse. He had dementia and Alzheimer's disease, had lifelong struggle with obesity, and he eventually passed away. And then my mother decided she wanted to leave after that, so she moved back to Utah with my younger brother. And so we were left in Vegas. It wasn't really our intention to be there, but we spent 10 full years in Las Vegas. I switched jobs during the pandemic, took a job with Amazon. I mentioned I work with them now. And I've been able to work from home. And so we said it's time to leave Las Vegas, leaving Las Vegas. I'm sure there's a song in there. Elvis or someone sang a song, Leaving Las Vegas. So we left Las Vegas and we moved to Utah. We've been here about a year and a half now. And maybe I'll turn it over to you then to kind of catch it up on your side.
Okay, so I'm Charilyn Gibbs, and I grew up in Utah. I think I need to start by saying that once I started having kids, then that's when I started to kind of put on the weight for me. And as a couple, we've tried several different things throughout the years to keep the weight off.
So I only mentioned one son. Maybe you should fill in the rest.
Oh, right. So yeah, currently we have 6 kids, and the oldest is Riley, he's 29, and then the youngest is Olivia, and she's 18.
So a boy and 5 girls.
A boy and 5 girls, yeah.
And the important part of the story is how many did you have after We had 3 under 5 and 6 under 10.
Yeah, 6 under 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of, and then Rustin traveled quite a bit. And so, yeah, that's where I started to gain the weight was after I had
Was with
kids.
pregnancies.
With pregnancy, yeah. So, and then we've tried several different things as a couple. We were into gardening and, trying to eat organic food. And we've,
And I didn't believe you about the organic food.
yeah, the funny story about that was I knew that there's, the pesticides leave residue on the food. And so I was paying more money for better food. And Rusty said, there's no difference. And so I finally gave him a little test taste. And then he realized that he could taste the pesticides. And so then he bought into,
Yeah.
spending more food for more money for better quality food.
Yeah, we kind of did a Pepsi challenge kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if it was apples or peaches or whatever it was.
I think it was grapes.
Oh, was it grapes?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't even remember. But I do remember that there was a big difference in the way it tasted, right?
Yeah.
So you tried to get into like healthier food.
Yeah, we tried to get into healthier food. We, believed in the farm to fork, so like, because the less time you plant something and then you eat it, it's better for you. So we started a garden and all that kind of stuff in Seattle. And we exercised, separately, but we still really couldn't get the weight off during that time. And then, so then Rustin picks us up in Salt Lake. We had been trying, so I guess we have to go back a little bit. So in Las Vegas, we were together and we were getting serious about getting the weight off. And so we we signed up for Lifetime, and it was quite a big expense for us, like $200 a month
Per person.
per person.
Yeah, it was not cheap at all.
Yeah, and we were also took on some personal trainers, and we paid for everybody in our family because we really wanted to work on our family system. Like you can't fix just an individual; you need to fix the whole system. And so we paid for everybody in the household to go to the gym, and we were going to the gym with our daughters, and they were teaching us things. We're doing personal training, and still couldn't get the weight to come off.
Yeah, so when you think about the memberships plus the personal trainers, we were probably spending $500-$600 every single month.
Yeah,
To be part of the highbrow gym scene.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, fancy workout clothes and tennis club membership and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know what your experience was, but I don't think I lost any weight at all doing that.
Yeah. So I felt the same thing for me. I felt like we just never got any kind of momentum, And then at that point, we decided to move up to Salt Lake because many of our girls had moved to Salt Lake to go to school and live up here and that kind of thing. And we were just feeling stuck, like we were getting older, getting heavier. Seemed like the traditional methods weren't really working for us. And so we still went to the Lifetime gym in Salt Lake, and we were doing workouts there, running on the treadmill, that kind of stuff. And then we also like to get our nails done, and so we started going to this nail salon that was in Sandy, and one of the technicians there was mentioned that she was taking semaglutide.
I don't think she mentioned that to us.
Oh, yeah.
I think we overheard her. She was working with somebody else.
Okay.
And she didn't know the name semaglutide, right?
Yeah.
She just mentioned she was taking an injection. I think she said something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of when we became aware of a different avenue for weight loss. And as we kept going back to the nail salon, we kept seeing her lose, we'd go like every month and we'd see her losing weight. And she would tell funny stories about how her coworkers were trying to get her to eat things because it does suppress your appetite.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of watched her journey, and we were amazed at how much weight she was losing.
Because it was really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to the salon once a month or so. That's about how long it takes for your nails to grow out, I guess. And it seemed like month after month, she looked a little thinner each time.
Yeah, and we were really inspired by that.
Yeah.
And then one day, Rustin came home and found a flyer in the mail.
Yeah. In a different episode of the podcast, I go into my story a little bit, and there's another podcast that's dedicated to Charilyn's story, and she'll tell you about her experience. But yeah, I'd been thinking about weight loss. I got up to 216 pounds, which for a bigger person, maybe that's not a big deal. They can carry that kind of weight. But I'm a short person. I'm 5 foot 6, pretty small frame. And so 200 pounds on me is heavy. And 216 I was getting to the point where I just felt like my body wasn't functioning well for the size of my body and the weight that I had, And I was feeling tired and I was feeling unmotivated. I felt depressed. I didn't like the way I looked. I had to keep buying new clothes that were bigger, and I didn't like the way they fit on me. And I just really was getting discouraged. We, like Chairlyn mentioned, we were going to the gym. We paid a lot of money for membership. We paid a lot of money for a physical trainer. I do think that those exercise and physical trainers have their place, but I think for us, we were really stuck. At least for me, I was really stuck. It didn't seem like I was getting any benefit from the exercise. We were trying to eat healthy, but to be honest, it was like sort of a yo-yo kind of, I don't want to say diet. I wasn't dieting in the sense that I was like, trying to restrict, how much food I ate, or I was trying to avoid certain kind of foods or anything like that. But, we were into organic food from the time that we were in Seattle, because that was a big movement up there. And to be honest, it just wasn't the same when we moved to Vegas. And again, when we moved to Utah, they didn't have quite the same culture when it came to like, fresh fruits and vegetables and raw food and things like that. So, we just kind of ate what was available. And I had been hearing ads on the radio about weight loss. I'd seen a few billboards pop up, and I'd seen commercials on TV that had popped up once in a while. But these were different than what I'd seen before. Everything I'd seen before was like, we know famous brands like Slim Fast or Weight Watchers, and those have been around for a long time. But these were new ads, and they were talking about injections. And it caught my attention because I'd never heard of anything like that before. And I'd been exposed to this message a couple times. And one day I got the mail out of the mailbox, and there was a little, I think it was like one of those coupon books for local businesses or something like that. And I was flipping through that, and one of the pages had an ad for weight loss injections. And I was all excited about it because I thought, oh, this is what I saw on TV. This is what I heard on the radio. It's actually here in Utah. Maybe I should try that, right? And I remember I ripped the page out of the booklet and I stuck it on the counter, and then I think it probably sat there for a couple of weeks until I finally got back around to it. And I don't know how it happens. You have conversations with people. We started to realize that people like Oprah Winfrey were doing something like this. Kelly Clarkson, was doing something like this. And I thought, I wonder if that's the same thing. So I took that little page that I ripped out and took it to Chairlyn and said, this looks kind of expensive. That's what my first thought was. But, we're paying a lot of money at the gym, and that's not working for us. Maybe we should give it a try, see what happens.
Yeah, but I had a big mental block,
Why don't you tell about that?
Yeah, because I was thinking, no, I don't like drugs and I don't want to, try it. Seems like a gimmick,
Well, sorry to interrupt you, but maybe just to clarify what you said, that I don't like drugs, maybe you should tell a little bit about pregnancies and sort of the choices we made about home birth and things like that.
Yeah, so I guess my mindset had been, that, well, I've always wanted to have a natural birth, and then some kids worked out and some kids didn't. And so I ended up
kids didn't work out? Or which kids didn't work out? They probably don't want to hear that. But
no, I meant the births.
Just don't mention any names.
No, the births
was
didn't.
Was it the oldest, the youngest? No.
No, so I was trying for a natural birth, and some of the births didn't work out.
They didn't go as well.
Yeah, so I had to get medication.
Okay.
So the last 3 I was able to do without medication, but I had been planning to do that for a long time. So my mindset was, medication, drugs, intervention, that kind of stuff doesn't really jive with me. And so I did have to get over that when I heard about the weight loss injections.
So you've kind of had I don't want to say naturalist, I don't know if that's the right word, but kind of naturalist, naturist kind of viewpoint about medicine.
Yeah.
Right?
As a kid, whenever I had a headache, I never took Advil,
Yeah.
because I was just kind of like, I would So that was just kind of my philosophy, you
Right.
know. So I had to get over that. And it took me quite a while. I remember Rusty kept handing me the flyer, and I would come up with excuses, and then he would give me the flyer again, you know, and I'd
Right.
come up with excuses.
Right.
And then one day it just kind of clicked in my mind where it's just like, well, nothing is working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are spending all this money at the gym and personal trainers. Why don't we take that money and dedicate it to the semaglutide?
Yeah.
And so once I did that, then we got on the same page. And so, you know, back to that couple thing. But if it wasn't for Rustin's insistent that we do this, I probably would have never pushed through, you know. So he helped me get to that point where that breakthrough that I was needing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the concerns were the money,
The money.
kind of a different worldview, I guess, a
Yeah.
different viewpoint about medicine and the body and health and so on.
Yeah.
And then what else? Were there any other kind of blockers? Like,
Well, I was also worried about because drugs have side effects,
Yeah.
you know, so many of the side effects. I don't think I researched them at that point, though. I think I just kind of went in blind, you know, like, let's just do it. We're stuck, you know. So,
I remember one of the things that caused me to hesitate a little bit was I associated the weight loss injections with other kind of beauty kind of treatments like Botox or lip injections or something like this. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, I thought I'm a man. I don't do that kind of stuff. And then the other thing I thought is I'm not into, you know, plastic surgery or, you know, or these kind of things. And so I guess I held it out at arm's distance for a little while before we started to try it. And then some of these concerns were resolved along the way, though, because like you mentioned, we quit the gym.
yeah.
By the way, we're back at a gym.
Yeah.
So we're not saying don't go to the gym.
But we needed that money to
But
get started.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what we were doing wasn't working. We were stuck, and we took that money and we used that money to fund the injections. And then the other thing that we found is that when the drugs started working and we were losing our appetite was suppressed and we were losing the weight, we weren't spending as much money on food either. And this podcast is done in the year 2024, so I don't know how long it'll be out there on the internet. But this, you know, the last couple of years in America, it's been a time of high inflation, especially on groceries and food.
Yeah, they say the most dangerous car to drive is your shopping cart. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's not dangerous, the most expensive
The
car.
most expensive one to drive. Yeah. So the groceries have been very expensive in America right now. And so between the money we had into the gym membership and the money we were spending on food, that's paid for the, you know, the injections, and it hasn't really had any sort of negative effect on us financially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then so as a couple, we decided we were going to do it. Went through the process and we got started on semaglutide. And it was, for me, I instantly had, I guess they say I'm a super responder. But for me, when I started taking the semaglutide, I had no appetite at all. Like if I didn't have the discipline, I could like not eat for 2 weeks because my appetite was so suppressed. So, but I did, so I tried to, because of that, it worked so well on me. I did have to try and eat in different, just eat because it's time, not because I'm hungry. So I've heard that from other people who were on it too, that they aren't hungry. And so they kind of have to manage that. And that's one of the ways that I managed it was just by trying to eat regularly, even though I wasn't hungry.
Maybe you could say something about your relationship with food,
Yeah.
you know?
So I guess my relationship with food is that I'm an undereater for sure. And so I think that also with the appetite suppressant and then my being an undereater, I never really had the skill or without the desire, I really didn't want food. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like when I'm stressed out or whatever, I'm an undereater. So I guess that's my relationship.
Yeah, but I think it even goes beyond that, where you've said before that you're kind of turned off by eating. Like even before we got into, you know, this medication or anything like that, you've got a real interesting situation, and I wonder if listeners to the podcast will relate to it. That you kind of have a sort of a love-hate kind of relationship with food, where there's some kinds of foods that you really love, and there's other foods that are such a turn off that you know that you not only don't eat, but it's like you're kind of disgusted by the food,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I feel like meat has been one of those things for me, where I don't like the smell of meat. I don't like how it looks and tastes. And so I remember as a kid that my dad was a hunter, and so he would bring home deer venison.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of their policies was if you take it on your plate, you have to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember he would try to trick us, just say it's regular cow meat, but I could taste when I tasted it, I knew that it tasted like venison.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very determined and stubborn personality. And
Oh, I can vouch for that. That's true. Anyway, go ahead.
And so when I was forced to eat it, my method was to put a lot of mustard on it so I couldn't taste it.
Right.
And then I just basically forced myself to eat it. So I think, that's kind of my relationship with food. I'm very strong-willed, and if I don't like it, I won't eat it. I'd rather go hungry than choke it down.
So what's interesting about that is I think many people listening are probably thinking that, oh, well, these two individuals, they must have been overweight because they were just, foodies, and they loved food, and they were addicted to sugar, and they, or whatever. And I think that sometimes that's what we think, that the reason people struggle with their weight is because they've got, bad food habits, or they just eat chocolate cake all the time or something,
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I really loved about the Oprah show was that she talks about how, your stomach communicates to your brain that you're full. And when that's broken, then your mind never shuts, your mind never gets the signal. And I think I kind of had the opposite, where it's like mine was broken in the sense that I never was hungry. You know what I mean?
Which meant you weren't actually eating things that you should have been eating,
Yeah.
right? So, like, I know for you, protein and iron and nutrients that you need, you haven't been getting, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting is people are probably listening to your story. They're probably thinking, how could she have been overweight if she never ate her whole life? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the tricky thing about nutrition,
Right.
Is it is complicated about diet and exercise,
Yeah.
And that was always a big mind boggle for me was it's like, I undereat, I should be thin.
Right.
You know what I mean? But still,
Right.
so I guess I never really said, but I was pushing probably to 190, 200 pounds when we lived in Salt Lake. No, 180.
180. I think.
180. Yeah, I think it was 180. And so that's like the heaviest I've ever been.
Well, and you're 5'4".
Yeah, 5'4".
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
someone that's 5'4", that's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other part of my story is I think that why that connection between my stomach and my brain was broken was my dad has diabetes. And so I think that ran in the family. And then I know that I was definitely addicted to sugar.
Okay.
So I think like two of my funniest stories that happened throughout my life were when I was in high school, I was a cheerleader, and so I had lots of exercise, but how I managed that was I just drank Diet Coke. I loved Diet Coke for years and years and years. And then one day I decided to give it up, and I haven't had Diet Coke since then. But then the other funny story, just to show you about how much I was addicted to sugar, was that when I had all those young kids, instead of cooking meals for myself, I would basically eat sweetened condensed milk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I'd get like a sugar high,
Yeah.
and then it would go down, so I'd get some
You
more.
would actually spoon it like right out of the can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm proud to say I don't do that anymore either.
You're proud to say you don't do it.
Yeah, it's my two accomplishments. But yeah. So I mean, so I guess how that relates back to the story is that
So you weren't eating fruits and vegetables, and you weren't getting enough protein, but you were having sort of this, when you'd have I guess you had sort of sugar spikes and sugar valleys,
the peaks and valleys.
the peaks and valleys, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how you were managing, right? You were just
Well,
kinda,
those were stories of like time periods in my
when you were young.
Yeah, when I was.
Yeah.
And so I did eventually. That's when I did eventually start doing the organic. So I was trying, so that I've been changing slowly over time. You know what I mean? So then I was doing that when I was younger. I was trying to stay away from sugar because that was part of when I was working doing having the baby. She was saying, well, you need to really have a good diet and exercise because it's going to help with having natural birth. And so I was slowly changing my habits, you know? And so, like I said, so I was slowly changing them over time. But still, even though slowly changing them, it seemed like it never really helped me drop the weight. Just kept getting more weight, you know? So I guess the point I was going to bring up with the sugar is that what also made that signal broken was I feel like I was pre-diabetic. So if you fast forward a little bit in the story, we're taking the drug, and part of the requirements with this spa was to do some blood work. And I was actually really excited about that because I was hoping to see if I was pre-diabetic or if I was diabetic, because that was kind of since my dad's history, and then also with my eating habits, you know, getting some information about that. And unfortunately, they lost the.
They
They
botched it,
they botched it.
Yeah.
And so this is another part of our story, but I have really tiny veins, and so I had this huge bruise like this when they did drew the blood work. And then, so we went through all that pain. And then I asked them several times, the spa, you know, well, what are the results? They lost them.
It never got done.
They never got materialized.
Yeah.
So I'll never know that part of my story, but I think that I was actually pre-diabetic.
Right. And the reason that you'll never know is even if you did your blood work now, your situation has changed because of the drug.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we finish the story, so then we start taking the drug. We get over those hurdles. We're now on the drug, taking it, the medication, I guess we should say. And I'm having a lot of nausea. And there are several times where I was going to give up because I was having a lot of nausea. And then, you know, my competitive nature, Rusty at that point was losing more weight than me. And so I thought, well, I can't let him beat me. You know, if we're going to do this together, then I can't have him beat me. And so I just kept
the whole
going.
time I thought we were like working on this together, and she was actually trying to take me down.
No, a little healthy competition is
Okay,
good.
a little healthy competition. So it helped you stay in the game.
Help me stay in the game because I was seriously like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, being a super responder, never hungry,
Yeah.
you know, not eating very much.
Yeah.
And then the nausea, there were several times where I was going to give up, you know.
Yeah.
And so Rustin inspired me and then also challenged me to keep going, you know.
Yeah.
I would always say, yeah, I want to give up. He's like, no, just let's, he would always problem solve, you know, trying to help me with things. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you think it was important for you to have a weight loss buddy to help you push through?
Yeah, because I feel like if it was on my own, I probably would have stopped
Yeah.
and then regretted it and then tried to get going again. So I kind of would have been in that
Yeah.
stop, go
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And that probably wouldn't have worked very well.
No,
Right?
yeah.
Because when did you start to actually see results? Was it, I mean, it wasn't like you took the injection and then 30 minutes later you're like, I'm skinny, right? It's like,
No,
yeah.
what I remember is that my body composition started changing. So the scale stayed the same, but my clothes fit, you know, better. I could see that my arms were shrinking, you know. My pants were getting, you know, looser and that kind of stuff. But for many months, the scale did stay the same, 180, you know. And then I remember when the scale did start weight, I knew that the weight was dropping off because I started losing weight. I think it was December.
So that would have been the second month.
Yeah, second month,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then I was, at first, I was still trying to do a lot of exercise. But because the caloric intake was so low, I kind of had to deal with, had a low energy. And so I didn't do a lot of exercise. I just kind of stopped eating, but then ate less, I guess I should say, ate less. So,
Right. I think that's a pattern that people need to understand about weight loss, right? Because I think, and we're throwing out, the word drug and medicine and injection and things like that. But a lot of the things that we talk about on the show are actually related to weight loss, no matter how you do it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and there are multiple ways to achieve weight loss. Right. So it's not like this is the only way. This is something that we have found. And
Another tool.
Yeah. It's a tool. It's something that's working for us. But people will go through a similar process as what we've gone through when they lose weight. And it's not necessarily related to the medication, right? So it kind of makes sense, right? You stop eating,
Yeah.
there's going to be changes, right?
Yeah.
You're going to experience changes. And so we encourage people that if no matter what kind of weight loss method you choose, you need to think about nutrition. You need to think about nutrients, right? So the thing about weight loss is that it's pretty simple, actually, is that, if you eat more calories than what your body burns, then your body stores the remaining calories as fat, and so you gain weight. If you burn more calories than what you're bringing in, and you're in a caloric deficit, then your body will burn off the fat that it's stored, and then you will lose weight. And it's really as simple as that, right?
Well, and the other thing I want to throw in there too is if, in my situation, if you are starving yourself, then your body will also go into preservation mode and store the fat.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's interesting,
Yeah.
because you actually were an under-eater,
Yeah.
but still had fat stored on your body.
because I wasn't doing.
Because you weren't eating enough. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing to keep in mind as well.
So I think those are
Yeah.
the two.
Right. So when people think about losing weight, and they sort of, when they're making a plan of how they want to go about it, and it's pretty simple. It's mostly diet, but it's because it's related to how much you're eating or not eating. And then exercise will help you kind of lock in your weight wherever you're at. And, and then for people that are stuck, we highly recommend an injection like semaglutide or tirzepatide.
Because I think that pushed us past that. We were at a threshold.
Yeah, we were blocked.
Yeah, we're blocked. And so the semaglutide pushed us past that.
Yeah.
And then we've lost the weight and back to the gym.
Right. Right. But the important thing to keep in mind is that whether you take the injections or not, if you simply stop eating, and this is part of your strategy to lose weight, then you need to think about nutrients,
Yeah.
right? Because, if you're not taking in the nutrients anymore, then negative things will start to happen, right? So muscle loss from not enough protein,
Yeah.
right? Hair loss from not enough nutrients, to feed your hair. People have reported these kind of symptoms,
Yeah. Well, for me, it was triggered by, so you have to be careful because the nausea can be triggered by sugary foods,
Yeah.
fat food,
Yeah.
fried foods,
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
I think that, I guess the other complaint we had about the spa was that we weren't getting any kind of education or
Or guidance.
guidance about this. And so I was making my situation worse.
Yeah. Well, and then at one point we stopped going to the clinic, and we were just buying the medication in a vial.
Yeah.
And then we started doing the injections at home.
Yeah.
And do you think that it was more important or less important in that situation to have a weight loss buddy when you were now administering the medicine to yourself?
Yeah, I definitely think doing it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for many months, Rustin did the injection for me. And then when he would travel, I started doing it on my own. But,
Right.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody with you, then you kind of get on a schedule. You do the injections at the same time, so you remember to do them.
Yeah.
You kind of cross-check each other to make sure you're taking the right amount.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You talk a little bit about what your experience was, like, oh, I was nauseated, or what did we eat? And the thing, we really recommend that spouses and partners do their weight loss journey together, because you're together all the time anyway, but you're also in the same household, which means you're probably eating the same food. You probably have very similar habits and patterns related to sleep and exercise and diet. And so when you do it with someone that's in the same boat with you, literally in the same boat with you, it makes it a little easier, I think, to kind of mentor and coach each other and to help each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like, you were a great support to me emotionally,
Can you say that again? Just look right at the camera, and if you could just say that again. I don't get to hear that enough, so...
You're a good emotional support.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to play that back over and over. So you think that if we weren't doing this together and I went on a business trip or something, you might have skipped out.
Yeah, I
You
probably
might
would have
have-
lost the fight. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So what about you?
I was pretty, so for me, my experience was different. Now, Cherilyn, I think, falls in that category of what we're calling super responders, which for some reason her body really responded to the GLP-1, which is the hormone. So the semaglutide, the tirzepatide, these are simulations, synthetic hormones that or proteins that your body makes naturally, but through an overdose of sugar. Okay. Let me back up a little bit. Your pancreas produces insulin, and insulin regulates sugar in your body, right? If you've been overloaded with sugar your whole life, what happens is that the pancreas starts to fail. And diabetes type 1 is when the pancreas stops producing insulin. And this is very dangerous because now your body cannot remove that sugar from your blood, right? Diabetes type 2 is when the pancreas still makes insulin, but it doesn't make enough to be able to clear the sugar from your blood. So everyone's heard of diabetes and they're aware of insulin injections. And the purpose of insulin injections is if your pancreas isn't making insulin or it isn't making enough, then you need to introduce that into your body from the outside to reduce that blood sugar. And for people with diabetes, insulin is a critical drug that they need to have access to. Your dad had diabetes,
Yeah.
and he had to take injections. And during the pandemic, that was a very stressful time for your parents because they weren't, society wasn't normal anymore. They weren't
Yeah.
able to get the insulin. They weren't able to go to the hospital. They weren't able to interact with other people.
Yeah, he's since passed on, but that was his biggest concern was,
Right.
Getting
Getting access to that insulin.
getting access to that
For,
insulin.
so for someone with diabetes, that is a life-saving
Yeah.
treatment or therapy, right?
Yeah, and these drugs were first invented for that.
Yeah. So,
And then they figured out that
Yeah.
it was so effective
yeah.
for weight loss that they actually made a version for weight loss.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So exactly right. So these drugs are not new. They've been around for a while, but they've been used for as insulin boosters. Well, they boost GLP-1, which it's all related to that. But it's a therapy that was designed to be done once a week for the rest of your life. And you're thinking, maybe some people are thinking, well, I don't want to take an injection for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
But-
actually, that was one of my. Now that we talk about it, that was one of the things that I asked the
nurse.
The nurse,
Yeah.
would we have to take this rest of our life?
Yeah.
And she said that if we did changed our habits, then
Yeah.
we could probably get
Right.
off of it.
Right. Now, we don't know if you were actually pre-diabetic or not, but in a situation where you were not diabetic,
Yeah.
right, and you're boosting these hormones, right, because what happens, because we did go off the drug for a while, because we ended up changing providers,
Yeah.
right, and we've started our own business now, so we've done a couple of transitions. So there have been some periods where we didn't have access to the drug for a couple of weeks. And I don't know what your experience was, but after about 2 weeks, I did notice that some of the inflammation started to come back. I felt like I was gaining a couple of pounds. And then we got back on and we got back on track. I got back on track. So, without this boost, if you do not change your lifestyle, right? If you just continue to eat cookies and crackers and you just continue to eat American-sized portions at the restaurant.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing that's been really interesting is I remember the first time we took the injection, we went to the pizza place
Yeah.
with some of our children, adult children.
Yeah,
And usually, you can eat the whole pizza
yeah,
and have some salad and the cookies or whatever.
yeah,
But I was only ate like a little handful.
yeah.
So yeah. And then, so I that was my first realization that I think I undereat, but then at the same time, when I do eat, I eat a lot.
Right.
So I had that realization. It was like,
Okay.
wow, I'm eating, these huge portions that people bring out to
So
you.
you had a eating pattern of feast or famine.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you realized that once your appetite was regulated, that you really only needed this much.
Yeah, and now
Yeah.
I feel like since I've been on the medication, I can control the portion sizes because I'm just not in that loop of feast or famine.
For me, I don't know if we thoroughly answered, how the drug works. We can do a whole episode on how the drug works and all of that. But for me, I didn't have the same experience that you did. I had very minimal side effects. I do remember feeling sometimes like I just had this tightness in my gut. I kind of felt like my stomach was squeezing, like something like that. A couple times I think I felt maybe a little nauseated, but I think it lasted for like 2 minutes or something. It wasn't like a constant thing like what you were dealing with. So for me, I'd had a pretty. Oh, there's a spider that's joined us here on the set. I don't know if the camera can see that. He's taking up our time. Go get your own show. So for me, I didn't have serious side effects, right? And I did start to see immediate benefits. Now, similar to you, it's not like, wow, I lost 10 pounds. And you wouldn't, by the way, you wouldn't want to lose 10 pounds in 1 week anyway. That just wouldn't be healthy.
Dangerous, yeah.
You want to lose 1 to 3 pounds. It would be safe. And I think for me, I was losing about 1.5 pounds. Now, I needed to lose 50 pounds, right? So even 1.5 pounds a week, what is that? 6 pounds a month. That just didn't feel very fast. And I remember feeling like, come on. It's like, because I guess I had it in my brain that it's like, some kind of magic pill or something. And then you take it a couple of weeks and then, I'm skinny again, and it wasn't like that. But I did notice immediate benefits, right? I noticed that the inflammation started to go down immediately. I've shown this in a couple of episodes already, but I wear this bracelet to remind myself. And I don't know if the camera can get a good view of that. My brother gave this to me at Christmas. We'd already been on the drug for 2 months. So which means I'd already had a great reduction in the inflammation. But, here we are like, what are we, 7 or 8 months into this now? And there's a good inch, that's, between my wrist and this bracelet here. This bracelet was sized to what my wrist was at Christmas time. And so I wear this as a reminder. Well, I wear it because I love my brother. And I'm going to look at the camera. Thank you.
Toby.
Thank you, Toby. I appreciate the gift here. But I also wear it because every time I look at that gap, it reminds me of what a change has happened in my body. You know what I mean? Because the change, you really don't want the change to happen too quickly, right? People worry about like saggy skin or, things like that. And I think, if you take it slow and you look after your nutrition and your water, make sure that you're hydrated and so forth, and eat, even though if you're not feeling that hungry, make sure you're eating nutrients, not calories.
Yeah.
Meaning, small volume, high nutrients is good. Big volume, no nutrients. That's not what you want. But unfortunately, that's the American way. We have these huge portions, big portions, lots of calories, but very little nutrients in it. But lose weight slowly over time, and your body will adapt. And you will go through this cycle where you will start to get smaller, and you'll not only burn the fat, you will burn muscle, and everyone freaks out about that. But think about that. Like, what if your body didn't adjust? What if you only burned the fat? You know what I mean? Your body would look strange. You know what I mean? Because it's like your body is, your body's pretty symmetrical, and your body burns fat evenly across your whole body. Think how weird that would be if you only lost fat in one arm and not the other. You know what I mean? So people freak out about, oh, you're going to lose muscle. Okay. Yes, you are, because your body is shrinking, right? You want that, but you do need to pay attention to make sure that you get enough protein and
then do the body scans.
And we recommend doing body scans. Part of our business is we offer 3D body scans so that you see the composition of fat to muscle to water. But also the way that we do it is pretty unique. We have a technology that allows us to scan for comorbidities, which means like if you have comorbidity means a sickness that goes along with what you have. And so if you are overweight or obese, you're at a high risk for very serious diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease, cancer, right?
High blood
and
pressure.
high blood pressure. Well, the high blood pressure and the high cholesterol those are all signals that you're having these kind of issues. But if you scan for that, then you can get an indication. Now, we are not medical doctors, right? If you do decide to work with us and get access to the medication through us, we are not the ones that are going to be giving you medical advice. That's not our role here. Our role is to share our story and to provide some neighbor-to-neighbor coaching about what our experience was and to give some friendly advice. That's what we can do. We can talk about what we did in terms of diet and exercise. But if you want professional advice about diet and exercise, then we do have partners that do diet plans, and we have partners that do physical training and physical therapy. And of course, you won't get access to the medication without a prescription from a board certified doctor, which we have access to, and we can provide that. But take the weight loss slow. You should probably plan for 12 to 18 months to be on it. If you do have a comorbidity like diabetes or something like that, then you'll want to work with a doctor directly on that. But if you're in a situation where you're qualified, 99% of people qualify, that you can take these medications for weight loss, then we recommend don't do it because it's a fad. Don't do it because you're trying to look like a Hollywood celebrity. Don't look like it. Don't do it because, don't do it for vanity. I mean, you do what you do. You do you. But our advice is this is really about health. This is really about wellness. And all the stuff about, it's true. You're going to look better. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel sexy. That's true. That's all going to happen. But this is really about, take care of your body, right? The single most important thing you can do for your body, if you're living in America and eating the American diet, is to lose weight. Absolutely. Because there are 200 plus diseases that are linked to obesity. So plan to be on the drug 12 to 18 months. If you don't want to be on the drug the rest of your life, which it's not bad if you do, because there are other benefits, right? It lowers your blood pressure, it lowers your cholesterol, it lowers, the big pharmaceutical companies that are selling this now, they are publicly advertising on television now that they've been approved by the FDA to use this drug for the treatment or for the prevention of cardiovascular disease, which means that if you take this drug continually, right, you are lowering your risk of heart attack and stroke, right? Which have been the big killers in America for the last 30 years. You know what I mean? So we called our business Breakthrough Medical because from our point of view, this really is a breakthrough in medicine. This really is a breakthrough when you think about reversing the obesity epidemic in America.
Yeah, I wanted to bring one extra point was, so in my journey, I did the caloric intake. So when I first started, I really was focusing on reduced appetite, reducing my calories, Now I'm almost down to my goal weight, which is 120.
Yeah. How much do you weigh now?
I think I weigh 130, so I have 10 more pounds to go. But the goal
That's a 50-pound change.
I know.
Right? Your body has changed by 50 pounds in about 7-8 months.
Yeah, so it's it hasn't been a transformative journey. But the cool thing now is that I'm thin and the diabetes from my family history is gone. And now I'm able to focus more on the protein and the exercise because I'm going to start toning. So I think those are the two components of the two ways to lose weight is the caloric deficit. And then also, but if you're wanting to tone your muscles and you're going to need high protein. And then I'm doing a lot of resistance training at the gym. And it's so much
weight resistance.
Weight resistance.
Not spouse resistance. You don't need any training in that.
Well, that still happens, no. A little training would be good.
Weight resistance.
Yeah, weight
resistance. So weightlifting.
Yeah.
And again, that's not like bodybuilding. It just means like, for you, you're like doing ankle weights, right? And the point is you add some weight because when you provide the weight for your body to resist against, it builds your muscles, but it also increases the density of your bones.
Yeah.
And that's important, especially for women.
Yeah.
As they get older.
Yeah. Another thing is my mom has, what's that bone thing?
Osteoporosis. Yeah.
So I think if I hit the gym and I can stay away from that disease as well. I guess, is it a disease?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and I go to the gym together.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I think people understand that if you have a gym buddy, then your results will be better. The chances of I don't know, I've tried all different kinds of things, but like some people are into this, you want to get up at 5 a.m. and go for a run. Either you've got a lot of self-discipline or you're wired that way. But I think for many people, having a gym buddy that helps them break through those days, get through those days because everyone has those days where you're like, I don't want to do it today. I'm too tired today. I just don't want to do this, right?
Yeah.
And so in the same way that an exercise buddy or a gym buddy will help you with your exercise program, a weight loss buddy will help you in your weight loss journey.
Yeah, and I also feel like there's benefits. So most of our kids are grown and moved out of the house, so it's just me and Rustin. And so going doing the weight loss journey together, now going to the gym together, we have a common interest.
Yeah.
It builds like emotionally we connect over it. So there's a lot more benefits than just the health. Like it's something that we can do together now that it's just him and I, because it is very different now. So like we shared in the past, we were going to the gym with our daughters, but now it's just him and I. And so for me, it's been a great way to bond and connect with each other and have something that we can do, besides watch TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're spending more time together that way,
Yeah.
right? But we're spending time on, you mentioned TV. We're doing active things together, right?
Yeah, going for walks, like hiking. Like one of the fun things we've moved to Draper, we've been able to go on those trails that have been throughout there.
Right.
So and I think it's a lot of the enjoyment now is because we're not struggling with obesity. It was hard to move and that kind of stuff. So we're finding more enjoyment in those activities where when we were heavier, it wasn't as enjoyable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to go back to what people can expect before I lose that thought in my mind, is that we're talking about shrinking the body,
Yeah.
right? And I think a lot of the things that people think of as being symptoms or side effects or things that they don't want to have are actually related to weight loss of any kind, right? It's not necessarily about the drug. So when you lose weight, your body will shrink down, right? And if you're not paying attention to nutrients and protein and exercise and things like that, then you will start to have some negative side effects. But also, you mentioned fatigue, right? And it sort of makes sense. It's funny that we don't think about it at the time, but it's like if you stop eating, you not only cut off the nutrients, but you cut off the energy supply as well, right? So I think one of the things that people complain about is that they feel fatigued, and I think that, that's a normal part of the process because you're adjusting your caloric intake and your body has to figure that out, right?
Yeah, one example of that is we know people that are doing the keto diet,
Yeah,
the same kind of principle,
right,
but they also struggle with fatigue.
right.
So it is just a principle of
Yeah,
cutting down your calories. You're going to be more
right.
you're going to be more fatigued. You're going to, eat less. Yeah.
But I think the pattern is kind of a U-shaped pattern that when you start, you're going to notice going down, meaning your weight's going to go down, but you're going to notice that your body size goes down, your energy goes down, and you're going down that side of the U like that. But there is a point where it starts to reverse.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what you start to notice is that now that you're, like you mentioned, it was hard to move. Once your body downsizes and the inflammation is gone and you can move your joints again and without pain, right? Then you start to notice the energy's going up, right?
Yeah.
And then the body starts to change the composition, right?
And even your tongue, your food desire changes.
And your taste, what you
that's
desire.
right.
So on this downward part here, it's like you're still stuck on sugar, right? And then you sort of switch over, and then you start to move more. And then what happens is the muscle, you will lose a little muscle because your body's shrinking, right? But then you're going to move more. Your body's going to crave
The right
protein
foods,
and nutrients.
And that's the weirdest
you
thing
know
is
what I mean?
I've been always against meat,
Yeah,
and I crave when I eat protein now, my body's satisfied.
Right.
Like, and I can go for, a while. So I just think, I think it's because of the semaglutide and the trizepatide is that my body's wanting
Yeah.
the right foods.
yeah,
And so it's helping me with that U shape, what you're talking about.
right, yeah.
Or now all that struggle and effort is now worth it because I've got the energy, I'm eating right,
Yeah.
I feel more confident in my clothing,
Right.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to point out is that I think we focus a lot on the downside of that U shape there, and people, they kind of freak out about, oh, you're going to lose muscle. Oh, you're going to be tired all the time. You're going to feel sick.
A lot of objections.
A lot of those, that's where all the concerns are. But then you get to a point where it starts to reverse, and then it kicks off this positive,
Yes.
this virtuous cycle where it's like you can move again. Now you want to get out. Now you're working your body. Your muscles are getting bigger. Now your body's craving protein. Now you're starting to eat the right things, Now you're starting to you're being more active. And then this is the part you were kind of talking about. Now you're starting to do active things with other people. So your social life improves and your emotional state improves and your mental state improves. And so it's just like when you're on the downward spiral, everything gets hard, everything is bad, and then eventually you get stuck, right?
Yeah.
So the reason that we've decided to do the injections and the reason we've decided to evangelize it and to create a business around this is we think everybody needs to do this, right? Is that if you're feeling stuck in your weight loss journey, you need some people have a situation or the willpower to just go out and hit the gym and turn things around. My personal opinion is that's not going to work for very many people, especially the older you get. So this gives you a boost. It helps you get unstuck. And then it kicks off this virtuous cycle where your body starts to restore itself, right? So it is true. I lost 35 pounds. About 5 pounds of that was muscle, right? But 30 pounds of that was fat, right? And so now the fat is gone. I carried all my fat in my belly, and I just had this big beach ball of a belly, right? I don't know if the camera can see very well, but it's like, I still have a little ways to go. I'd still like to lose, another 15 pounds or so. But, the belly's gone and I can move again. And the thing is that now I'm active and I'm building that muscle back again, right? So my body, I did lose 5 pounds of muscle, but now I'm building it back. But I'm building it back in a way where I'm not gaining the fat back, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think people know this, right? It's like, it's not how much you weigh that's really that important, right? What's really important is the composition of your body, right? You want to make sure that you've got, good bone structures, you've got enough lean muscle mass, you're well hydrated, right? And fat is a natural part of your body. We're not saying have zero fat. That wouldn't be healthy, right? But when you get the right ratio, the right proportions, then you feel strong, you feel energetic, you feel alive, and then you're in a position to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Weight Loss Fight Club. We did a little bit of fighting here. We're spouses, and so we're used to fighting with each other. But this show is about fighting the obesity epidemic in America, one person at a time. And today we talked about getting a weight loss buddy to help you in your personal fight against weight gain. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.